closer to home. Lots of people are doing their utmost to make Somerset greener. And I don't know about you, from seeing the headlines that we have seen in Glasgow, how they are reiterated back here to home, the changes that we make and what we can do and the projects that are running in this county as well. A Somerset Forest school leader has been working with a sawmill owner for the last 2 years, making a series of films about the future of Britain's forests. Wood for the Trees started off as a year-long project leading up to COP26, but when COVID delayed the summit, Charlie LeMerchant and Tom Barnes had to reevaluate their plans. Well, Tom is a fourth-generation owner of a family sawmill firm specialising in locally grown wood. Good morning to you, Tom.
Good morning, Claire.
Thank you for being with me. Now, I guess first and foremost, where exactly did this idea for making the films come from?
Well, up until COVID came along and spoilt all our lives, trees were very much front and centre in the news. Lots and lots of people were talking about planting trees. Even the BBC was focusing on trees. And we thought it was a perfect time for myself and Charlie to learn more about woodlands and forests and the future they may have, and also how it fits in with the whole issue of reducing our carbon impact. So we set about interviewing as many experts as we could find, coming from as many different perspectives as possible. And as you said in the trail there, Charlie and I are very, very different people. Charlie is an activist and a filmmaker and a forest school leader, and I've been brought up in the timber industry, so my priority has always been the timber that we can get from woodlands, whereas Charlie has very different ideas on what woodlands should do. So we set about going to talk to these experts, and it was slightly spoiled by COVID and elongated, but it meant we could talk to more people before COP. And COP particularly, we heard lots and lots of talk about tree planting. And a worry that both Charlie and I had was that we were becoming so fixated on tree planting, but no one was actually talking about what happens after you plant the trees. So, there's at least 50 years of work to be done before any kind of tree is mature. And in terms of our native broadleaves, that's nearer 100 or 200 years. So there's a lot of work to be done after you planted trees, but there's not much talk about that, and there still isn't.
Has anything changed for you? In being a part of this and given the films that have been made, has any of your views changed at all?
Mine definitely have. As I say, I've grown up in the timber industry, so my priority has always been timber production. And I still think that's very important, and even more important, because we're talking about decarbonising construction, which will mean using more timber. And I think it's really important to be able to use locally grown timber rather than just timber that we've imported. Having said that, I've definitely sort of broadened my opinions on what woodlands can be and should be. And, having spoken to a diverse range of people, what I learned is that woodlands are, really important things in our landscape. And not only should they or could they produce timber, but they can also do some other amazing things for us. They are extremely good at cleaning water. They're extremely good at cleaning air. And they also produce fantastic places for us as humans to be. And I think one thing we all learned from COVID is how important our green spaces are for us. And woodlands particularly, phenomenally good at revitalising us as human beings. So I think I've probably got a broader appreciation of woodlands than I had when I went in.
What needs to change then to get everybody thinking about this and our woods, our forests, our trees, our deforestation? What's the answer here to wake people up?
I think we have to stop thinking about woodlands as static things that need to just be protected. They're living, breathing organisms by definition, and it takes a lot of effort and a lot of skill to manage these areas. And it isn't just about planting trees. I mean, one of the dangers that there is at the moment is that a huge amount of money is going to flow into tree planting because there are many companies and organisations that want to be able to call themselves carbon neutral, and that means offsetting their emissions. And a lot of offset is fed into tree planting. So there is a danger that we're going to fund a lot of money into tree planting, but the focus is all going to be on getting trees in the ground so we can claim we've planted 1 million or 2 million trees. But then those areas of trees are going to get forgotten in future years as policy moves on. So I think it's really, really important that people understand the long-term nature of woodlands. And I think government is getting there, but I think there's still a lot of work to do. So we have to really hammer home the fact that, woodlands are multi-generational things. Hundreds of years they take to evolve and develop. And so I think it's just changing our perspective on what woodlands are as humans, because, it's well known that as humans we have become detached from our natural landscape, and we spend up to 90% of our time indoors. And I think we've lost what is sometimes called wood culture. So that whole connection with woodlands in using them and being in them and working with them. And I think, we need to get that back, not just for woodlands, but for the rest of our landscape.
Yeah. Well, Tom, I'll tell you what, watching your films as well is a good start. Tom Barnes, thank you for your time this morning. 4th generation owner of a family sawmill firm specialising in locally grown wood, spending the last 2 years working with a Somerset-based forest school leader who couldn't make the interview today. Charlie LeMerchant, thank you. Filmmaker whose films you can see via YouTube in regards to our forests. Just search for Wood for the Trees.
From the BBC Sounds app, on your smart speaker, play BBC Radio Somerset.